Hello
Okay,
there. Hi, Anthony.
we're live. It says live in the
Hey,
corner. We must be live.
welcome to the Many Worlds of Mike and Anthony podcast. I guess it's a podcast. What do you call it? A YouTube
Live stream,
channel?
YouTube. I don't
Live stream.
episode 2. It's our second
Episode
episode.
two.
That's
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
it is pretty exciting. We'll, we're still getting the hang of this. So,
Yeah, but it's been good. Got a
yeah.
lot of great feedback. From some friends that were, taking their time to give us a listen. They're our first round, so got some good
Mhm.
feedback. So hopefully people will see those types of changes as we move along during our
I hope so.
our future attempts. Hopefully today, but yeah, it was pretty good. It was a success. It was fun going back to watch it a little bit as well myself. So
Mhm. Yeah. Well, um, what do you want to talk about today?
hey, what have you been up to since last time? What's going on in your world?
I've been watching some good TV, of
Yep.
course. Um,
Busy learning and staying ready to help you.
oh, my Google Assistant is talking all of a sudden.
That's technology for you.
Yeah,
It's your day over in past.
She's just going to
she
continue
just
to talk.
asked me how my day was. So, been
Tell
watching some
her
good
some-
TV, and maybe we can.
I'm here and ready to help you with anything you need.
Yeah,
Tuesday the ninth.
it's
I don't
going
have any
great.
of that.
Could you, Google? Could you just shut up right now?
Stopping
Yeah,
here.
So there were a couple episodes that I was trying to follow up on some TV series that I was checking out. I've been watching lately. Daredevil is one of them. I got to finish Daredevil up, but we don't need to talk about that one right now. We can do that one a little bit later, unless you want to dive in. But
Yeah.
no, it's been.
No,
awesome.
I do want to talk Daredevil. That's one of the all-time best Marvel series ever, I think.
Yeah,
But we'll have critiques of it, I'm sure.
we'll definitely do that. No. I was just, it was interesting. The weather's been really great as of late. It's been fairly rainy the past, I don't know, several weeks, and finally had some great weather. And, it had me thinking about, how many great summers really that we had. And it was around this time of year where, especially when the MCU was just getting rolling, right? I mean, we had Iron Man that kind of just kicked it all off. And for me, it wasn't, I mean, it was cool. It was a big deal because I was always somewhat familiar with the comics, just being brought up on them by my father, because my dad was, like I told you last episode, big Marvel fan. And what I thought was really cool about it, though, is when those things started to come to life, like with the technology that we have in the film industry, and to kind of see my dad get to witness the things that he grew up with, when he was a little boy hanging out, and he was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So I mean, comics were huge. Marvel comics were huge when he was younger. At least the Silver Age, right? We're talking Silver Age comics for those out there. So it's like the second phase of comics, right? The golden age of comics were, the Supermans and all of that awesome stuff. There's some pre-Marvel stuff, but long story short, it was really exciting to spend those times going to the movie theaters with my dad, being able to watch those movies come to life. And so, and to be honest with you, man, we had an amazing run of MCU movies. We would get at least 2 at a minimum a year, maybe 3, and they were all fantastic. Just connecting each other and leading up to, as we all came to know, what was it, 11, 12 years later, as the Infinity Saga, right? I think it was called the Infinity Saga, or the Infinity Gauntlet Saga, Infinity War, I guess. And then of course the Endgame, which, to be honest with you, we had some great standalone Marvel movies. They were the intro movies of the characters, and had some really cool enemies that they got to fight with, and the antagonists and whatnot. But obviously, the big one was Thanos. They made him kind of the main character, the main enemy. Like, behind everything was him. At least from the MCU. So, yeah, I thought, he to me, it was really awesome to kind of see that entire series, at least from whenever Iron Man first started, when we didn't know Thanos was coming. I guess it was the first Avengers movie, I believe, when we first really started to realize that Thanos was most likely coming.
After the Battle of New York, we had the end credits scene where he talks about courting death. Well, he responds to a statement about courting death.
Yes, which I find very interesting, right? There's a story behind that. I don't know if many people know that story about that comment, and it didn't play out, right? As far as I understand, it did not play out that way in the series that we got, but it's very interesting that he made that comment.
Yeah, well, I am absolutely like a complete nerd about one particular comic artist and writer. Jim Starlin, who created Thanos. He created so many characters, Star Fox and Pip the Troll that we saw at the end of the Eternals. He created basically all of the equivalent of the new gods of the DC universe, which Kirby created. Starlin created the Marvel version of the gods. A lot, not Thor, but we're talking what he called Titans.
Yes.
Where you had Mentor, who he created, who was sort of the father, who's the equivalent of DC's High Father. And then you've got Eros, who's Star Fox, or as we saw in the movie, a very well-known, played by a very well-known Harry Styles was playing it. And he created Gamora. He created Drax the Destroyer. He created a lot of characters that haven't made their way onto the movie screen yet. I think he created Moondragon, who hasn't been on the screen on the big screen yet, but I hope they put her up there.
I heard.
What's that?
I heard he created some DC characters as well, though, right? He played on the DC side too, did he not?
Yeah, well, so
not as much.
Not as much, but he was a very, very important writer of Batman. In the 80s. In fact, he's the one who killed off Robin, the second Robin.
Oh, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, well, he was well known, for better or worse, as being the writer. If you want to kill off a character, you hire Jim Starlin to do it.
Oh, geez. So that's his reputation?
Sort of, yeah. Although I think it's a bit undeserved, but I see where he gets it. Because so here, to understand Jim Starlin, I think you need to understand that when he created these characters, he did so because he was taking a psychology class in college. And he wanted to create a cast of characters who were physical manifestations of psychological disorders.
Okay.
So out of that, or in some cases, almost philosophical stances. So you've got Thanos, who comes from the word Thanatos, which means death.
Yeah.
And Thanos is a force of nature. So another thing you need to understand all of Marvel's deities is that they are physical manifestations of forces of nature. So Galactus is like entropy, that planets will, or at some point die.
Yeah.
It's just that he's the physical form of that. So Galactus isn't evil because he destroys planets. That's his job. Yeah. If he doesn't do it, there's not balance in the universe.
Yeah.
Thanos, from that standpoint, is another manifestation. He's the manifestation of the death drive.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, he's not evil. He's necessary to balance the life force, which is represented by Star Fox, his brother, also known as Eros. In other words, erotic reproduction.
Yes.
So you've got Thanos, who's the Death Force, Eros, which is the Life Force. You've got Pip the Troll, who represents utter pleasure and hedonism.
Yeah.
Which, if you read the comics, you'll understand that. You've got Adam Warlock is from Jim Starlin's reinterpretation of him.
Yeah.
He is a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yep.
Not only that, but a suicidal paranoid schizophrenic. And I don't mean to get too dark, but it's just simply the truth of the comics. Right. And so, I've always been, my very favorite thing in comics is what I call the Warlock Thanos saga. And as you can see behind me, I've got a long box here. That is the Warlock Thanos saga. There's a few things in there that aren't part of that. There might be a few issues of Doctor Strange that Starlin wrote for Marvel. There's a few issues of Master of Kung Fu because Jim Starlin also co-created Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I was going to say Shang-Chi was one of the other characters. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Which we did get in the MCU a little bit later on. We did get that.
Although I wish they would just do a movie of him doing Kung Fu instead of dragons and stuff. But that's a whole other thing. But most of this, 95% of this is the Warlock Thanos saga. And so it starts off with stuff not written by Starlin because Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, or was it Steve? I don't know. I don't remember. It was probably Jack Kirby.
It was Ditko.
It was Ditko?
Yep.
Who created Warlock, but he wasn't called Warlock. He was called Him.
Yeah.
In Fantastic Four 66. You didn't see him in that issue. He was in a cocoon.
He was in a cocoon, exactly. Yep. Yeah. Which they did show at one of the end credit scenes of one of the MCU movies. They showed they panned in on a cocoon. I believe it was. I want to say it was Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe one of the ends of there. Yeah, the second one maybe, or
Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yeah.
2. Yep.
And whereas, and I like the way they had him created there because the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko version in Fantastic Four was a bit hokey.
Yeah.
It was like some scientists, I think they were called the Beehive or something like that, and they were trying to create the perfect man.
Yes.
And so Warlock, when he's first created, he's just a child, basically in his mind. And he's a fully formed adult with a child's mind.
Exactly. But he acted up.
Yeah, he acted like a child. And so I will say some people gave the Warlock version in MCU hate because they're like, oh, this wasn't the Warlock we know from the comic books. Well, it is if you go back to the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko version. It's very, very true to that.
Right.
So I don't mind that at all, assuming that they develop his thinking further and his because he does. And then we get to the Avengers and the fact that Warlock was not present for the Infinity Gauntlet saga.
Right. He was not a part of the MCU at that. Yep.
He was not. And that's from a diehard fan of the Infinity Gauntlet saga. That's, on one hand, you could think that's inexcusable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say I'm okay with it, but I'll tell you what. Because without Warlock, you have in the comics, you have no Infinity Gauntlet saga.
Right.
He's easily the protagonist of it. But if we go back to the Thanos saga, it starts before he meets Warlock. Thanos was created to be an enemy of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Okay, Iron Man 55, which I have.
Yep.
I think I have 2 copies of it over here. And in an issue that where actually the main villains were called the Blood Brothers, which are like the worst villains ever. It's like
worse than Thanos, huh?
There's a reason why there's not going to be a Blood Brothers movie, but
right.
But Thanos was created to be like a Marvel version of one of the New Gods, but a lot of people think he was created to be like Darkseid, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
The original kind of mirror he was mirroring was Metron from the DC universe. Think about the chair Thanos sits
Yep.
in. Metron
Yes.
goes all over. He's basically, Metron's almost like a watcher. He goes around recording events in his chair.
Yeah.
And that's what Thanos was. And then the Marvel bosses came to him and said, "We want you to beef him up and make him more like Darkseid." But that was never the intent to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And so, but so he was an enemy of Iron Man, but he very quickly, when Starlin was assigned to write Captain Marvel, you have to understand that Captain Marvel did not have cosmic powers when he was created by Stan Lee and whoever his co-creator was.
Right.
So Captain Marvel was just like he was like just a Kree warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Starlin was like, "Oh, I like cosmic stuff," so he gave him the power cosmic.
Right.
So Captain Marvel runs into Ego. I think it was Ego. No, it
The
wasn't
planet.
Ego. It was there. No, there's. I should know this, but he runs into a cosmic being, gives him the cosmic power, and ties him
real
to
quick,
another character. Yeah.
for everybody's, the Captain Marvel in the MCU is not the Captain Marvel he's talking about right now. Just to let everybody
No,
know.
it was a man.
Yes,
It
just
was
let
a
everybody know.
male.
There's a story behind all of it, so we're not just saying, oh,
Yes.
there was a swap or anything like that. There is a story behind it, yes. But Captain Marvel
So
is
this
actually, yes,
This
yep,
Captain Marvel, right there, and
yep,
so, Captain Marvel was given the power cosmic, and then very quickly he became the enemy of Thanos and the Avengers, and then it became more of an Avengers versus Thanos story, starting in
yep.
Marvel 2-in-1 Thing and Spider-Man, and then we move on to a full Avengers giant size issue.
Yeah.
And this is more the Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel and the Avengers were his enemy
Mm-hmm.
in those two Avengers movies.
Yep.
So it's more adapts this, which when Thanos was trying to, take cosmic power from things like the cosmic cube, which the MCU calls the Tesseract.
Yep.
And so from that standpoint, that's why it doesn't bother me, because a lot of times what you see in the MCU is they'll adopt a story
Mm-hmm.
and they'll call it by whatever the coolest name is that they can use.
Yeah.
But it may not be that exact story.
Comic accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I look, and to be honest with you, what we got, so I learned a little bit about this as well, just chatting with my dad about this, because obviously we stayed with it the entire time, at least up to Endgame.
Yeah.
We kind of slowed down a little bit after Endgame because we had so much for so many years. And it was almost like, where do we go from here now? Especially after we lost Iron Man and just, and then Captain America decides to, use time for his advantage to go back and do his life over again that he wished, so we didn't know what to do, but man, it was such for what, 11, 12 years, we had such an amazing run of fantastic movies. And I will say great stories. Yeah, there were some that were better than others. There were some that seemed maybe a little bit unnecessary. There were some that were goofy. Maybe they were just utilizing the franchise and just, going with the momentum so they could make the money. But at the end of the day, I absolutely loved the whole idea of this all was stemming around these potential, stones, Infinity Stones. And, the cool thing about it was we didn't know that from Captain America when we were dealing with Red Skull, when it was all about the cosmic cube, right? We didn't really know that was an Infinity Stone, at least at the time. And I thought that was really great.
Thor. Yeah.
Right. And we had the Ether and Thor. Exactly. So then it really started to just kind of like, oh, okay, maybe maybe this is going in that direction. And then sure enough, the leaks started to come out. Yes, we're going in that direction. It's going to be that way. And then of course, naturally, everything just started to progress. But look, it was a lot of fun. just having the stones introduced. I kind of wish they would have done that a little bit more. I think we really only got maybe 3 or 4 stones actually introduced, in its own movie, right? I mean,
Well,
correct me if I'm wrong, and I will not be able to name all the stones, but the Tesseract, or was that the Space Stone? That one we didn't find out until later.
I think so. I don't claim to actually have memorized all.
And then the Guardians of the Galaxy, I guess everybody
I know
else would.
that Strange has the time stone. So.
Right, Strange has the time stone. Guardians of the Galaxy, they all had was that the reality stone? Maybe they had the reality stone, the purple one. It'd be easier to go by color. It's just to be real honest with you. But
well,
either way, it was an awesome
the comics
storyline.
did exactly that. They had the Thanos quest.
Yes.
Where Thanos literally goes around the universe collecting the stones, and it's amazing. This is a fantastic read, again by Starlin.
Yeah.
And
well, it turned out to be that. I think that was the other thing that really kind of resonated with me on that storyline, because it was a quest for both teams. Who can get to them first? Who can have them? What is the consequence of having all of them at once? How do we even wield them? Because we learned early on, I think in Guardians of the Galaxy, that no one can handle these. Even people with superpowers can even stand, holding on to one of these stones, right? I mean, they were literally, beyond space and time. They were created beyond space and time, I think, or during the creation of space and time by, the Eternals, I guess, or whatever. Not that we need to get into that.
It was basically the original cosmic being who created the universe died, and it was fragments of the
That's
original.
what it was. Yeah. Yes.
That was the Starlin thing too. He came up with that.
Which to me, it was just, how cool is that? And then, but so that was a great part of the story, right? So that's what I think was so amazing about the MCU. We got all of these individual characters that we could all connect with and see how they developed, how they all struggled with whatever it is they were struggling with, how they struggled with each other when they ran into each other. I mean, literally, look at Thor and Iron Man were, butting heads all the time. And then of course, Stark and Rogers were always, butting heads as well. Just, from one guy was a sheer arrogant, jerk. And then the other guy was just this, Boy Scout, as we talked about last time. So it was neat to see all of the different character dynamics, but when it counted, they were all able to come together. But what was they had to have a reason to come together though. And that's where I think was cool about the Thanos piece, or the aspect of it, because Thanos, he was on the search for those stones as well. He was going after those as well. That was his key, because he had a mission. There was a reason why he wanted to do it. And it had nothing to do with the Avengers, like knocking them out, destroying them, nothing. This literally had to do with his life mission, right? Which I think what you alluded to at the very beginning of this conversation, that, he essentially was the harbinger of death. Is that probably the
He's in love with Death, who is in the MCU now.
A character, yes.
She's played by Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec, but she's was in Agatha all along, which was an awesome show if you get a chance to watch it.
Yep.
It's a direct continuation of WandaVision, which I also loved.
Yeah. Both
it didn't have Wanda or Vision in it, but it was still a direct sequel.
Right.
Weirdly. Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Death is in there. And I do love the fact that they got Aubrey Plaza to play her, because she was always like super goth girl.
Goth. What a phase we had. What was that back? Was that the 90s? That was in the 90s, right? Or later 90s? No, it's grunge in the 90s, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
but no.
Yeah. I mean, goth has been around for a long time, depending on.
Yeah, I know. I guess it just kind of just keeps reinvigorating itself. But no, it was so. Yeah, so it was cool to see, even though they didn't really mention that as far as Thanos' character, they didn't really develop that piece. But all along, like you said, if you knew and understood the comics, that's essentially what Thanos, it's like he was doing that because he was infatuated with Mistress Death, right? That's who he was infatuated with. Like he was in love with her, I guess, so to speak.
Yes.
So
All he wants is her embrace,
to please her. Yeah.
but she never gives it to him.
Right.
Although, well, there's more to that. If you read that long box of comics, you'll be well rewarded to find out what happens with that. But
yeah. Well, and as we know, spoiler alert, if you have not seen the Endgame, I guess the Infinity War, and then Endgame, which would have been Avengers 3 and Avengers 4, I think, right? Thanos, he had his moment. He absolutely had his moment. He got what he wanted. He had the gauntlet so he could handle all the power of the stones combined. He was able to eliminate half the population. And why half? That always sat with, like, why was it half? Is it because everything in life has to have a balance? I mean, is that really the reason?
There's a lot of speculation about that, that from a purely realistic point of view, it wouldn't make that much of a difference because the populations would repopulate back up to the point. But I think I think you're right. I think it's from a storytelling point of view, it's the idea of balance in one half. But
well, let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
If you think about it, let me ask you this. The fact that he did that, okay, it caused also to the people who lived, who weren't a part of the snap, who didn't vaporize, a lot of pain and suffering, right? So was it also a way to, I guess, create submission of living beings too? Like from a power standpoint, did he really not understand the power that he had with the gauntlet and the stones? So if and when utilizing that, the snap, everybody disappeared, or half the population disappeared, everybody lost somebody. I mean, that was a theme after Endgame was over in several Marvel movies. 5 years later, we were still struggling. We were still dealing with the loss of people. And there were people that didn't even really know how to recover, like get back to normalcy, right? I mean, they were gone for so many years. And so it was very interesting to me. Once again, as very like intelligent of a being as he is, I really still don't think he really understood the power and the responsibility behind that power when it came to those stones. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the Avengers did either. They were just looking to save everybody. Right. So that's my take on it. But interestingly enough, as everybody knows, Thanos ended up pretty much losing in the end.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can always count on Marvel heroes to be is just 100% reactive. Like you take any two Marvel heroes together, and they've never met each other before, the minute they meet each other, they start fighting each other. They just assume the other guy's an enemy.
An enemy,
the other gal, whoever it is.
I know.
And so one of the things I love about, I keep going back to Starlin, about his Warlock.
Yeah.
Is Warlock basically always ends up leading all the other heroes, and whenever there are these big cataclysms, because it's happened more than once. It's not just Infinity Gauntlet.
Right.
But basically, Warlock is the ultimate intelligent planner and schemer and leader. And he basically uses all these other heroes as chess pieces. And so he's kind of a master manipulator.
Yeah.
And the only person who Thanos respects as an equal.
Yeah.
And in the comics, Warlock is essentially the only person who's capable of defeating Thanos.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the others stand a chance in the comics.
That's why they had to be. That's why they had to band together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think truly think we had a good run. We really did. I'm going to be honest. After Endgame, you know, I feel like Marvel's all over the place right now. I don't know where we're going. We do not have the same connectivity. I don't feel. I think they're trying to do that again. I think they're trying to bring that back, but right now it just feels so all over the place. I just don't know. I do not know how Doomsday is going to go. I just don't know. Because to be honest with you, Doomsday seems like we're leading up into another Infinity War Endgame scenario, but we have not had much buildup that I know of at all to get there, right? Whether we're introducing new characters, which we've had a few here and there, you know, the Thunderbolts, you know, all of that stuff. I don't feel the connectivity that we got, and it was perfect. I mean, perfect's a strong word, but for me, a fan loving to see the stuff come to life, having the conversations that I was able to have with my dad, it was really good. It was really
agree.
good. It was fun.
Even the ones that people consider lower tier movies.
Yes.
I mean, like a lot of people don't like Thor: Dark World. Even a bad MCU movie from that period is still really good.
It is good. And look, I'm okay. I thought the Dark World was fine. I thought it was good. I liked it a lot too, to be honest with you. But that's okay. You know, that's what makes us all different, you know.
Yeah, I liked it a million times better than Love or Thunder.
To me, I don't know. I think we were really reaching there at that point in time. I thought they were just taking advantage of the franchise there. No offense to the people that do like it, but I thought just didn't really have a place with me.
It was just too wacky. I mean,
it was.
I don't mind some humor, but it was out of place. Thor works best when he's more of a straight man and not the funny guy.
Not the goofy one, the heavy set one and whatnot. But look, we can talk about out of place, but there is a segment of this that is out of place, but it had its own place. And what I'm talking about is the Netflix series of the Marvel series that were on Netflix. Don't know if a lot of people, you know, got into those because obviously they were on Netflix. They weren't officially a part of the MCU, but they were really, really good. Obviously it was smart for Marvel Studios and Marvel Television to branch off into other areas of, you know, other platforms because, you know, obviously they can capitalize and whatnot, which totally as long as we're getting good entertainment. But, no, the Netflix MCT Marvel, you know, Marvel Cinematic, Marvel Television Universe, whatever we want to call it, I thought was really, really good. I was at a point where I didn't watch them when they came out. I believe that run started around 2015, I think, maybe something like that. But I watched it, binge watched all of them pretty much within a couple months. When I say all of them, there were four series, right? There was Daredevil, there was Jessica Jones, there was Luke Cage, there was Punisher, and Iron Fist. There were five.
And the Defenders.
That's right. There was the Defenders. So for everybody that knows, which were a little bit odd because a lot of them, there was a Defenders comic. It was good, a little different, but it was good. But those
people weren't in it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe they were in some like 2013 version of the comic or something. But I'm telling you, man, and I want to get back to talking about the Netflix, but I'm telling you, what I want is a real Defenders movie. I want the Hulk. I want Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I want Namor. And I want Silver Surfer in it. And you've got all of those characters already in the MCU. Here.
They're already there. Yep.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Give me a real Defenders movie. That would be awesome because that's the greatest team because they don't like being around each other. They don't get along and they always mistrust each other, but they're like the most powerful beings and they get together to defend the planet.
At least give us a hat tip in the MCU because every one of those characters are fair. They're fair game, especially with Doomsday. If they're going to do Doomsday the way that all of the leaks and the commentary has been about it, they have an opportunity to at least hat tip for all of us fans of that. They can do that if they want to. They can have a scene in there somewhere where all 4 of them are in the same room. They could if they wanted to.
They could also, with this reboot, soft reboot as they call it, they could give us the Invaders.
Yeah,
because the Invaders. Okay, the Invaders, because Captain America was a World War II hero. Yes. Namor was a World War II hero
who became Submariner.
Okay, and there was the original Human Torch who fought in World War II.
Yeah,
those were the Invaders. One of my favorite comic books growing up, and they fought as a team, a secret team against the Nazis.
That's cool. However, I still love the Howling Commandos. I mean, you gotta love it. It was awesome that they brought those into to Cap. I mean, that was fun. That was a good time. The Howling Commandos were pretty awesome.
They did a fantastic job of reproducing that theme. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. It was brilliant. It's what made watching Captain America, the first Avenger, such an awesome movie. Still probably one of my hands down favorite movies.
Yeah,
from the soundtrack alone, that soundtrack is awesome. I mean, just from my perspective, and I speak from the place of when I'm at work and I need some ambient music in the background. I'll play soundtracks. That's one that I go to a lot. I will put on the Captain America soundtrack from the movie, the first Avenger, because it's an awesome. It just gives you goosebumps, man. It's an awesome.
Yeah, we got Elrond as the Red Skull. It was amazing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We did. Yeah, little Tolkien Lord of the Rings hat tip there. Hey, it's amazing that there's just so many. There's a handful of actors out there that really can play some awesome characters. So
yeah.
But anyways, I did want to, like I was saying about the whole Netflix piece.
Yeah.
They were all really great series. So if you haven't had a chance to check them out, I think you'll enjoy binge watching those. They're all available. I believe they're all on Disney Plus now. I don't think they're not on. They shouldn't be on Netflix anymore. So, but it was really great. I enjoyed them I enjoyed them very much. My favorite one, though, my favorite character is the Punisher. There's just something about that character. I think it was cast very well. I thought the storyline was really good. I get frustrated that they tease him a lot in Daredevil. It's like, give us a storyline. Give us a storyline with him with Daredevil. It's okay, guys. Do it.
Yeah.
But for instance, so what happened is Netflix, all of that stuff went away. I don't know how. It was a contract issue, I'm sure. And then later on, years later, Disney has rebooted Daredevil. And it has brought back a couple of those characters from the original series that were on Netflix, which has been great. So I'm grateful that Disney was able to do that. It was really nice that they didn't substitute characters and all that stuff, because I thought that the Netflix characters were really great.
Yeah.
So they
spoiler alert for Daredevil Born Again.
Right.
After this point.
Right. Yeah. So Born Again, Daredevil Born Again. Basically it's a reboot, but it kind of starts off as a 4th season of Daredevil, because I think there were 3 on Netflix.
Yeah, so there were 3.
Yeah,
and it is a direct sequel.
Yeah. And from a Disney perspective, they're doing pretty good, in my opinion. Yeah, there's things we can complain about. There's aspects of Disney that you feel in it. I get that. Not a lot of fans of Disney, Marvel people. I understand that. I'll join you on some things, but there's other things that I don't mind. I really think they did okay with Daredevil Reborn. Okay. I think they did okay.
Well,
the teasing.
I really enjoyed, I liked all of the original Netflix series. Even though Iron Fist got a lot of hate, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
It wasn't bad.
The fight choreography wasn't up to the standard of Daredevil, but
it's Netflix. I mean,
but I still enjoyed the story, and I didn't mind. Some people didn't like the performance. I liked the actor just fine. But my favorite was Jessica Jones, and I was glad to see her back in Reborn. And I thought Reborn season 2 was up there with and for my money, the best of the Netflix Daredevil. And so what I wonder is where are they going to go from here? What are your thoughts about that?
No. That's a great question. I'm lost. I really don't know. Are they trying to tease something up? Because, they did introduce his character in an MCU movie. Remember, it was just a quick cameo session, if you remember that.
Yeah,
and I don't remember if it was it Spider-Man, was it the second Spider-Man or the third Spider-Man? I don't remember if it was No Way Home or if
it was No Way Home, because I think
I don't remember, but they were in the kitchen. Aunt May was there. Happy was
I may be
there.
wrong about that. I should research this stuff again before talking about
it. No, it's okay. All I'm saying is why I mention that is because they did introduce his character. Now, if you blinked, you wouldn't have realized who it was. But if you remember, if you noticed, if you watched the Netflix series, and if you noticed his glasses and whatnot, and of course his instant reaction when I think it was a brick or something that came through, or I don't know, and he caught it, you knew automatically it was Matt Murdock.
He's a really good lawyer.
Yeah, he's a really good lawyer, and he was blind, and he couldn't see, but he caught it. He caught something. Anyway, so back to what do you think the series is going? If you haven't watched the season, and once again, spoiler, he's been fighting with Fisk, Mayor Fisk. I guess he became the mayor essentially, and the Kingpin is his actual name. They've only thrown that out a couple times. But he's been fighting with him for the past 2 seasons in Born Again. And I don't know, it kind of felt like it ended. I don't really know where it's going to go. They almost made amends essentially. And then, that's that. But the question is, where do they go from there? And I don't know. Do they continue on the series itself? Or do they try to bring it into the MCU as we're leading into Doomsday? I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. Because right now he's not available. Let's just put it to you that way. Without spoiling everything, he's not available.
Well, and let me just say this for the record. Honestly, there are some characters that when they bring them to the screen, you think, oh, that's like, I'm sorry, but the casting of Iron Man, I mean, he is Tony Stark.
100%.
He is Tony Stark. It's
100%. 100%.
I mean, Chris Evans, Captain America, is perfect. So there's a lot of perfect casting.
I agree.
But there are some characters that aren't just perfect, but the MCU made better than the comic book version. And I got to say, in my opinion, Kingpin, Wilson Fisk is one of them.
Yeah. How do you pronounce his name? Diorfano? I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but I totally agree with you. Kingpin was a cool character in the comics.
Yeah.
I know him more from Spider-Man, believe it or not. Messing with Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as the antagonist for Daredevil, he was awesome. He was awesome. He was another enemy. Once again, I think Marvel did a really great job of creating this character that you hated, but you also had sympathy for, because he still had a human side. Love and acceptance were 2 things that he struggled with, and he found it in one person. And that's what I think made his character so awesome. But man, when he got upset, his temper tantrums were not pretty. They just weren't.
No, you don't want to be anywhere around.
That's for sure.
Unless there's always like one person other than Vanessa that he likes. So
yeah,
there was,
true.
Leslie from the first series, and then there's Buck, and then Daniel. Although, yeah,
it's true, but those characters, to me, I still feel as if, maybe from his perspective, but I still feel like they were submissive characters. They were involved with him, but they realized that they couldn't get out either, in my opinion,
Mhm.
without, Deep Six. So, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, Buck's he's loyal. I'm interested to find out what, his character, what happens with him, because he's very, very loyal. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what direction it's going to go. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, right now they didn't leave us with much. They didn't leave anything hanging really that much for us at the end of that
Well,
season.
the big thing they made fairly obvious is that Poindexter Bullseye is going to become part of some Suicide Squad-esque
For
team
Marvel.
led by Elaine from Seinfeld.
So you think, okay, so see, I didn't see that or know that one coming. You
Yeah,
think that's
because
probably
on
what's
the
going to happen
plane
again?
at the end, he was sitting there with Mr. Charles, and Mr. Charles works for, um,
The government,
yeah.
right?
And so now, honestly, and as a storyteller, as someone who you and I have written scripts,
Yes, we have.
I feel like sometimes you take a character so far, and there's no way you can redeem them. And I feel like, honestly, I feel like they're on the road to try to redeem Bullseye. But I mean, dude, he murdered
Yeah.
Foggy, the
Yeah. Look,
the heart of the series. He's murdered in cold blood dozens of people. I'm
yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't care which criminals he catches as part of the champions or whatever they put him in.
the misfit team.
There's no redeeming that character for me without,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I think he's a cool concept of a character for sure, but
Mhm.
I agree with you. I'm not invested in him, to be honest with you. I'm not invested at all. I really am not. And to be honest with you, what are we going to do with Daredevil? And I know we're talking about that, but my question is, what are we going to do with him? We've seen just about everything with him now. I mean, we've seen his ups and downs. We've seen him battle. We've seen him go from not killing people to, I think he might have killed somebody, didn't he? I think he's
He
finally
tried to
killed
kill
somebody.
he tried to kill Bullseye
Right.
because
I
of
mean,
Foggy, but he
yeah,
wasn't successful.
which, his, of course, which I did think was really cool. They brought his Catholic faith into the mix, which, hey, you know what? Good. I'm glad they did something like that because it had to play a pivotal role for him. I mean, it was necessary, I guess. Let's put it that way. But it was kind of neat to see that play out as well, because I think it had a lot to do with him and his, how he made decisions. But what else happens with Daredevil's character now? I mean, I just don't know what else there is left with him. Same thing with Jessica Jones. I mean, what do we do with her?
I don't know.
Punisher, I still think
I'll be happy
yeah,
with whatever they do with her because I love Jessica Jones. I love my favorite comment was from the Defenders when I
yeah.
forgot who said it, but somebody said I love the superhero Joan Jett thing you have going on.
Oh, very cool. Very
But I
cool.
love the fact that she can fly. She just doesn't like flying.
Right. Yeah. I no. Look, she's a neat character. She's a neat character. I think they were all in their own right a neat character. I do hope that they get more attention. I don't know if they will or not, but I do hope that they get more. There's supposedly, I've just seen a couple previews. There's supposedly a Punisher movie, I think, or more of a feature length movie
A
coming
one
out.
shot coming
Yeah,
out tonight, I think.
is it tonight?
I think so, yeah. Like
Okay, well,
midnight somewhere.
I'm going to get invested in that. So maybe maybe we'll watch that and we'll come back
It's
and
a
talk
one
about
shot
it.
like Werewolf by Night, which was good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe we'll come back to that one. We can have a little segment on talking about the Punisher, because I think that series itself it deserves a brief discussion. I really liked it. I thought it was cool. It was gritty, and then we'll see what this movie, this movie pans out. I'm hoping, and just before we, stop talking about that, I hope that they, because he escaped prison, or that cell that Fisk had him in at the end of this first season of Daredevil Born Again. and nothing happened with him. So I'm hoping that's where they're going to continue that story. It's going to continue on from that point. That's my hopes. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I also want to give a shout out. We mentioned the Netflix shows. There was lots of other good Marvel TV that wasn't on Netflix.
Yep.
There was my all-time favorite Marvel thing, period. And I'm like the only one probably, but is Agents of Shield. I've rewatched that like 5 times. I love it so much.
Yeah, if people don't realize it, that was that was where I really fell, in love, if you want to call it that, with the character of Coulson, right?
Yeah.
So it was hard to watch what happened to Coulson.
Yeah, it was.
Really hard, because he was such a cool character. You just admired him. He was a very comfortable, humble, didn't let anything, get to him. He was a great character. And so, yes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was definitely, it was a good series. Didn't get the length of runtime that I thought it needed.
No.
So,
but I mean, there were some cool things in there. They had Deathlock in there.
Yeah.
They had the beginnings. They had I forgot what you call it, the technology that he had on his arm, but there was a lot of Hydra in there. I loved that. It was just amazing. And even Nick Fury showed up once in a blue moon. And some people get this wrong. I've heard people say that it didn't tie into the movies. It absolutely tied into the movies.
Yeah.
If you watched it religiously like I did, it even tied into Thanos, because they kept another alien horde of Thanoses from invading Earth.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, what were they doing? They were doing that.
Yeah.
So I loved it. There were other good things. There was Cloak and Dagger was good.
Yeah.
Runaways was good.
I remember that as a kid. Yeah.
There was lots of them. I mean,
hey,
they weren't as good as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Daredevil, but they were worth watching.
We're also forgetting a massive franchise, Marvel franchise, that has been around for quite some time as well, and that would be the X-Men.
Oh yeah.
Which is a whole other world, so we won't dive into. But let me say this: the X-Men was by far it's still by far one of the coolest. Where, I mean, anybody and everybody, because I think it was just such an expansive world. It was just massive, because, just watching the first movie, just the seeing Cerebro for the first time, and the fact that there were mutants everywhere. I mean, mutants are everywhere. It was a really cool concept. And I'm glad that was a really good run and a good series. It still is for Marvel today. But that's another great one. So we'll have a lot to talk about on that one, because they've seen a few decades. We've had the aside from the stuff early on, maybe back in the 70s or 80s, maybe, I don't know. We had the 2000s, which were some good movies, and then of course they rebooted, which were awesome. So, anyways, but the X-Men were really good, and we're supposed to be seeing some crossover, from what I understand. Finally, I mean, we have seen a little already. So I'll say that. So Marvel has already tried to cross over just a little bit already. But we're going to see some more crossover sooner than later.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a big question here, and maybe we can end with getting your thoughts on this.
Yep.
So with the Hand coming in Spider-Man, the Hand was a villain for Daredevil and for Iron Fist and for the Defenders in the original Netflix run. They have this resurrection technology, or magic, and usually it's like their chosen one, Elektra, that they resurrect, because that's kind of her thing, is she gets resurrected. But so I assume Elektra is going to be back, but we get into this mystical resurrection stuff, and we have the reboot. We do it so. Would it cheapen Foggy's death if they brought him back using either the reboot or the Hand resurrection stuff?
How did I know you were going to go there? Is Daredevil even capable, or Matt Murdock, is he even capable of conceptualizing something like that? I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
that's an excellent point. You mean from his Catholic faith point of view?
yeah, well, from his faith, absolutely, but just I mean, from his moral. I mean, let's be honest. He experienced Elektra after her resurrection, right?
Mhm.
She wasn't the same. He
No, she
tried.
was not. No.
He
Yeah.
tried to find Elektra. He tried to find her
Yeah.
again, and she just wasn't there. So I mean, it's a great question. It's a great concept. I have no idea where they're going to go with the hand, but it's happening. And it is pretty dark. I do agree with you, which is going to be interesting for Spider-Man because a lot of his characters were not, or at least his enemies were not dark from my perspective. This would be, we'll see how they do in the movie. That movie's getting ready to come out, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it
I think
June?
so, yeah. I mean, Spider-Man's got one of the best rogues galleries there
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of them, really.
I know.
I mean, we've seen some cool ones, especially with the old movies, but
Yes.
there's a lot more they could do with them. But what I wish they wouldn't do is what they did with, I don't like what they did in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is put them, a whole bunch of them in the same movie, because then you don't get any good quality time with any one of them.
You're talking about the all the enemies that were in there. So they had Dr. Octopus, they had Sandman.
No, I mean in Amazing Spider-Man 2, when they
Okay.
when they were trying to put the Sinister Six together, and they had Rhino,
That's right. Yeah,
and they had the Shocker. I think is that his name, the Shocker?
Electro, right? Was it Electro?
Electro, yeah.
Yes.
Shocker, that may be an Iron Man. Anyway, I know Shocker's a villain of somebody.
He is. No. He is. He's different. Yeah, but he is a villain. No, you're right. I remember
that. Too many people in that movie. I think they did a good job with No Way Home, putting them all in there.
Yes.
But we had the advantage of already knowing all those villains. We already knew Doc Ock. We already knew Green Goblin from previous movies. Whereas in Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Garfield, it's just all these new villains we don't know.
Right.
Unless you're know from the comics and the old cartoon, probably.
So for those listening, there's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which was we got 3 movies from there, and that was where I was going. Where they had a movie where there were 2 or 3, there were like 3 or 4 enemies in one of the movies. I still think Spider-Man 2 was one of the best. I think that was probably one of the best.
It was amazing.
Yeah, but they had that series. Then time passed. Then we got the Garfield series, which was Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and now we're in the Tom Holland, which has been more of the MCU, which is a Sony production, but got in there. But anyways, it was once the only thing about all the Spider-Man stuff. I think every one of them were great. It's tough seeing a different Spider-Man. It's tough seeing a different character play or a person play Spider-Man, but I think all of the movies were great. I really do. I love the Tom Holland ones. I love the Garfield ones. I love the Tobey Maguire ones. I love it.
So. Yeah, very much so. Well, so it's about time to hang it up. So what if, I haven't gotten to say this yet, so I'll say it. So what do you think, audience, about Foggy coming back? Should they do that? Would it cheapen his death? How would Matt deal with that from a spiritual point of view? Tell us in the comments what you think.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Look, I'm a huge fan of Foggy. I really am. I thought he was a great character, and be interesting to see what everybody else thinks, what everybody else says. So, but yeah, well, no, great. I really enjoyed chatting a little MCU with you, Mike. Now, I know we did mention in our first episode that we are going to be, we probably will mention or talk about Star Wars at least once every episode. So I do have to bring it up. We will, even though it's challenging. Mandalorian and Grogu, I know, comes out next week sometime.
Yeah.
We'll probably have another stream before that, but that is definitely something that we're going to at least have a future discussion on. I think the Mando was a good series. Probably wish we could have got more. We'll see if we do, but just want to bring that up, that we'll be talking about that at some point in time in a future.
Well, that movie is a result of similar forces that caused all those Marvel movies that we had too many of
Yes.
after Endgame, that was a corporate decision. Kevin Feige didn't want to do it, but they were like,
Yeah.
make as many movies as you can make. Just throw superheroes at the screen and big
Right.
screen, small screen, everywhere. And so he had a mandate. He had to do that. In a similar way, Disney decided that Dave Filoni was going to take Mando off the television and put him on the big screen. It was like, okay, Mickey,
Yep.
uh,
Yep. No, I know. And there's mixed feedback, but still going to give it a go. So we'll have to do that, and maybe we'll reconvene on that. But yeah, looking forward to next week, Mike, to have another good chat with you.
yeah,
I hope you have a great evening. Thanks for the good MCU conversation tonight. I appreciate it.
same. Yeah, and I'll have more to say about Jim Starlin and Warlock later.
I'm sure you will.
All right. Thanks,
I can
buddy.
tell. All right, Mike.
All right.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.